Hello, and welcome to the Fireside Chat podcast, where we share perspectives to keep you uplifted and focused on what matters. The holidays can be a stressful time of year for you and your family, and these discussions are meant to inspire more creative approaches to the season. Tonight, I'll be interviewing Ami B in reference to her experience with her first Thanksgiving alone and how she decided to celebrate as opposed to commiserate. We'll also have a fun conversation around her idea to help engage parents with the popular Christmas tradition, Elf on a Shelf, in this episode, Holiday Headstart. Ami, it's wonderful to have you back in the studio. You look well rested and like things are moving in a positive direction. Let our listeners know how you ended up, as you call it, flying solo this Thanksgiving. Thank you for that, Sola. It is wonderful to be back in the studio. I've really enjoyed my flying solo Thanksgiving. So, of course, we can reference back to the remote attack series. That's pretty much why this happened, I believe. And then also me and Lance are going through, we're in our second divorce. So that happened. He just made plans to leave. He went to Texas with his family. I hope they're having a good time. And then Ezra, my 24-year-old, and Lee, who's their partner, celebrated their first Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving, which I thought was really awesome. They're 24, so this was an opportunity for them to kind of break away from normal traditions. And they had plans to go over to Ezra's friend, Louis, that they go to college with. So anyway, I found myself in a position this year with everything going on. My family has not been very supportive of what's happening with me. My sister has an issue with what I've posted with remote attack. She came over here with one of the hen bots, one of the people that's been stalking me, the one that was having the affair with Lance. And they basically bulldozed me, and I ended up having to kick them out. So, yeah, people are trying to basically shut down what I'm doing, and I don't want to mix too much of that in this conversation because I want it to be a warm, cozy one. But that is what led to me being, alone on Thanksgiving. And it was just one of those things that I decided to really embrace it as opposed to getting super depressed over it, which is a very normal reaction to have. You stated in our pre-interview that you decided to celebrate as opposed to commiserate. Why is this message important for you to share? Thank you for asking that. This message is important for me to share. And one of the reasons why is I've always had family. This was my first holiday, Christmas or Thanksgiving alone. And millions of people go through this every single year. And it's not that it's self-imposed. Okay, so it's something that just ends up happening to them, whether they are going through a divorce or, their family, they no longer have living relatives, whatever the reasoning is that for whatever reason they find themselves completely alone on the holidays. And it can be an extremely depressing time of year for people. And so it was important for me, knowing that, first of all, I was going to be coming on here to do this discussion with you. I wanted to give myself the opportunity, because that was my first reaction when I found out that Lance was leaving to go to Texas and that Ezra and Lee had plans. It was that feeling of, oh my, this has never happened to me before. And then my sister came over and did what she did, and I kicked her out and was like, well, I'm not going to ask to go hang out over there. So it was one of those things where I decided this is going to go one of two ways. I'm going to be absolutely miserable, and I've already been dealing with that now. I'm going into the 9th month, starting in December, of these remote attacks happening to me. So I really want to celebrate today. And Kevin Hart just put out a new stand-up on Netflix. So I decided when I saw that, I'm gonna buy myself a nice meal, and I'm just gonna make a day of it. I'm gonna decorate. I'm gonna watch that. I saved it, even though I really wanted to watch it when it first came out, and made it a point to outline what I was gonna do for the day, because I knew it was gonna be extremely important for me to have that outline in mind, to cheer myself up. Because once you get into that miserable mindset too, it can heavily affect you. And I'm already kind of in that headspace. So I didn't want to take the risk of dragging myself down any further. I have friends and family members that exhibit signs of this seasonal depression. Can you dig into that a little bit more? Yeah, of course I can. I do too. It's a pretty common thing. I'm originally from Connecticut, so you combine that with the sun going down, it starts a little bit before Thanksgiving, where by 3 o'clock it's dark in Connecticut. And people get very depressed. My big brother suffers from it. And so it's one of those things too that doesn't get talked about a lot, and I know that's your next question here looking at my notes. It's really sad because it's supposed to be this cheerful time of year, but I believe one of the reasons that people do get as depressed as they do is now they're being forced into almost this cheerful hostage situation where you have to be cheerful. Like everybody at work expects it. Your friends are all throwing parties. So it's not just the extra expenditure of expectations that happens, which is exhausting for a lot of us. The family gatherings, the social gatherings, the present buying, and all of the different traditions that normally go with this holiday season, and they've added up over the years. You just kind of keep stacking them on top of each other. It's one reason I designed the elf on a shelf thing, is to try and help engage parents so they can actually have fun with that tradition. So it's not just one more thing they're doing and like white knuckling through it. But when you stack all of those different things and expectations on top of each other, plus you're adding, some people don't have partners, and it's just shoved in their face, we're the perfect Christmas couple, and just look at our kid's portrait, and it's crammed in people's faces, literally, if you don't have a family or in a traditional family setting, whether it's extended family or romantic. It's really packaged in this way that is isolating for people that aren't falling into those very narrow, parameters of what is merrymaking. And then people that don't want to be on point and smiling and Merry Christmas every 2 fucking minutes, it just gets exhausting. I mean, they're playing Christmas music right after Halloween. Like, they just skip right over Thanksgiving. And it's kind of, I feel like the commercialization of Christmas has definitely brought on this seasonal depression. I think it's an even bigger crisis than we realize, most likely, and I'm not laughing at the depression part. I want to put that in there. It's one of those things that just doesn't get addressed very much. What would you like to say to anyone who may be listening to this right now that goes through this kind of depression? It seems that it is an important topic, as you just said, that doesn't get addressed much in our society. To anyone listening to this right now, I just want to say you're not alone, and there are tons of people who feel this way, and that I'm not trying to cram another cheerful thought down your throat, by the way, with this. After my experience, because I suffer with anxiety and depression, I need to put that out there, and it's something I have to take medication for every single day. I take Lexapro. I have no problem stating the medication that I take, and it's been a wonderful medication for me. It's really working for me. But first of all, it's very natural, so it's accepting you're not alone. You're not the only person struggling with this. I come from a family that is very broken at this point, and then you add into that my broken marriage, and now I'm just kind of out here floating around going, okay, well, what do I do? And so, the only thing that I can say is somebody that's always had that. I've always had the family, I've always had the friends, I've always had this very tight-knit social network that I could rely on. This is my first year that's been compromised heavily, and it's been terrifying. And I could have gone down a different road, and I'm not saying that won't happen at Christmas. I really can't say. I have no idea. But I can say that there are certain things that you can do to help soothe the depression, to help soothe the anxiety, to kind of take the pressure off yourself. One thing I would like to say to those of you that are single and you're looking at the couples and everybody's projecting this shiny version, and you really want that, and I understand that. If you've never had it, it is a natural desire to have. But a lot of those couples are miserable, and it's not real. What you're not seeing behind the scenes is them fighting over money and the level of hostility that literally comes into relationships during the holidays, because now it's all about all of this extra stuff, and now you've got 2 people dealing with it, 2 sets of families to buy for. It's really not the Hallmark version that you're being sold. Just to put that out there, it kind of can sometimes take, I don't know, some of the angst off of it, or feeling bad about it, when you realize as a single person without a lot of attachments, you actually can enjoy the holiday way better for yourself. And that's what I'm going to be embracing. My kid is 24, not a kid anymore. They're always going to be my kid, but still, you know, so it's I'm kind of loosening up around that. Now I'm not married anymore. And so I'm just deciding to use it as a time of personal reflection and celebration with myself. And so, you know, try and embrace that. I'm going to go over some tips, I think, in this next question. Yes, as you know, what are some tips for people who suffer with this? What are some things they can do to help soothe their anxiety and depression this time of year? Sorry about that. I tend to jump ahead a little bit. That's the problem with me bringing these notes in here and looking down at them. So anyway, not trying to do your job, Sola, sorry. Like I said, pre-plan, you know, set an intention for your day. Go to bed, make sure your area, whatever it is, especially if you're going to be doing this alone, is you clean it the night before, because that always, it's just a mood booster immediately when you wake up. So just because you're alone doesn't mean you can't be festive, you know? If you don't want to decorate the whole house, that's fine. Get yourself some candles and a small little floral arrangement at Publix. You don't need to do anything crazy, but just make sure the house is clean the night before, and put the little decoration or wherever you're going to eat, and map your day out. What are you going to watch? Have the food already bought. You know, I just baked a rotisserie chicken from Publix, and they had little sides. They were delicious, by the way. Thank you to Lance if you're listening to this. He did before he left town. He got a beautiful tree, and he got me some food, and it was just really nice. You know, if you drink alcohol, just make sure you have everything stocked that you're gonna want. So you're already going into the day like this is a reward for yourself. And then use that day to just go over the things that you're grateful for. And you know, that's what I did. I just took time with myself and my animals, and I did some creating. Just use the day to feel good. And if you do start feeling sad, that's okay too. But remind yourself that you could be sitting with a bunch of family members yelling over politics. The fucking game is on, but nobody can hear it. They're playing shitty Christmas music in the kitchen. The fucking turkey's getting burned because everybody's talking. Remind yourself that the image that you're getting sad about pretty much doesn't exist in most homes. There's a level of chaos and confusion that comes with the holidays that if you kind of aren't having to deal with that, it's already a little vacation and reward. So that's my best advice around how to reframe it, just so that you aren't depressed and that you aren't sitting there kind of wallowing and stewing in it all day. You know, give yourself that gift. Very good. That was excellent advice. Switching gears now to a fun highlight that grabbed my attention since I have young kids in my family. Give me this fascinating background into the family funny you created back in 2003 called Elf on a Shelf. Okay, I really love this story. So back in 2003, I mean, as everyone knows, I'm an artist, and I used to always make like hand ornaments, personalized Christmas cards, and that sort of thing. So this year I went all out, and I just had this idea that I wanted to create a shelf. So instead of the elf, it's a shelf. I went to Michael's and I bought one of those little wood shelves, and I decorated it to look like it was a little elf shelf that you would put on a shelf near your tree. And I made a packaging box like, you know, you'd buy a Barbie doll in the store. It has a little sweater in it. It has instructions. And basically the idea around it is you put the shelf out, and it's the little workstation for the elf that you never see. So that's the main difference between the two. Elf on a Shelf is the elf, and it runs around and creates a bunch of mischief. So in my version that came out, I don't even know when Elf on a Shelf came out, but when I created this, it wasn't out on the market yet. So it was quite the hoot when I saw it. And of course, everybody in my family was like, see, you could have made money. And it's just one of those things I always kind of tap in. A lot of my predictions come out in my fiction and in my artwork. It's just a way that I channel the information. So anyway, I put the shelf out every single year. I have the packaging still. And it's one of those things that I love getting into the imagination. My family, they loved it when they opened them. It was just a really fun thing to make, and to have it all these years later preserved. It's something I put out every Christmas, because I'm 51, no matter how old I get, I love to embrace just the magic and mystery of Christmas. Give our listeners a little inspired thought for why they should join your Elf on a Shelf Craft a Christmas Mystery Challenge. Why? Let's see. I feel like parents should embrace this because it's a way of taking this tradition, which I feel like stresses most parents out. It takes this tradition and it expands it into something where, first of all, you're learning a little bit of storytelling, and it's very bonding with your kid. So this is something that I did with Ezra, and it's where the idea came from, as I was creating content for the internet and I wanted to make something around Elf on a Shelf because it is a tradition at this point. And I don't want to exclude parents that don't have Elf on a Shelf in particular. There are tons of other dolls. We don't even have a traditional one, the one that's out in markets. I think this is like right around the time that Elf on a Shelf came out. There were these handmade ones, and I think the elf's name is Jessie. She's adorable, and I put her out every year. She's right next to the Elf on a Shelf handmade box that I have with the little shelf. So anyway, but it's the same concept where the elf does the little messes, and on this year, I just generate, instead of a bunch of little mischief messes, each one you have to think up every single day, I decided, well, I'm going to tell one long story, and ended up turning into like this thriller mystery. But at the end, there was this big reveal and a mystery solved. Ezra absolutely loved it. And so I think, the reason why is because it's going to make it fun for you. Think about, Halloween. I know a lot of parents that aren't normally into holidays and all this stuff that comes with it. They love Halloween because it brings out their inner child. It brings out their inner artist decorating the front stoop and, their costume and all of that stuff. And so if you have that, even a little creative spark in you and you enjoy decorating, I think you're going to really enjoy this because you're going to get just some foundational building blocks and storytelling, as well as just a fun activity to keep your kid engaged in the mornings. And then they're going to learn a little lesson along the way. And you're going to be the one to design it. I'm going to help you through the steps so you're not too overwhelmed. And yeah, if you go on there right now, there's some preliminary things for you to get and some questions to think over before we launch it on Tuesday. So it's going to be every Tuesday. I call it the story stage, where you get that week's story stage that you're in, and then you're going to design all of your little messes around that one stage, so that at the end it's saying something, and then you're going to add those all up to one big mystery at the end. So yeah, I think it's exciting, and it's something I think that parents will really enjoy. How complicated will this be for parents to pull off? Honestly, I'm trying to make it as less complicated as possible, less, whatever. I get so excited when I talk about these type of imaginative things. Anyway, I don't think it's going to be that complicated, but again, you're kind of designing it around your kid's personality and your own, and so you can make it as complicated as you want or as simplistic as you want, and I'm doing it that way on purpose, so it's not one story that you're following. You're the one that's going to design it, so you can craft it if you want it to be super easy. It's just a way to keep focused during this span of time where you're having to do this every day, that you actually enjoy it and see what you can come up with. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be that complicated to round that answer off. What's the main benefit of parents taking the time to craft this Christmas mystery for their kids? Okay, so this is one of my favorite topics. I'm going to combine your next question here with this. Imagination. Imagination is extremely important, and the biggest benefit to doing this is the parent engaging their imagination and then sharing it with their child, which is a very bonding experience. And we live in a society right now where everything is so separate, everything is so individualistic. Kids are at school, and then they're at after-school activities, they're on their phones, they're watching television. And so it's like having, sitting down and playing a game on a game board, as opposed to sitting down and now watching a movie with your kid. The game board You know, even though that's something usually now reserved for special holidays or going on a cabin trip, it's something that engages a connection, that physical connection that, you know, electronics does not accomplish. And so you're stimulating your own imagination that you might carry forward, you know, after the holidays are over, which is what I'm hoping. And for you and your kid, it's a bonding experience for you to be bonding over solving this mystery over the Christmas holiday. So I think that covers it, and I think it's a really big payoff. It's definitely worth the effort. What would you like to say to the creators of Elf on a Shelf if they're listening? I just want to say thank you. I think there needs to be more products out there that stimulate the imagination. And I just want to say thank you as somebody that loves this type of thing. I think it is really one of those things that you've added back into society. And also, I have lots of creative ideas around this idea. So if you want to contact me, I'm of course available and open to discussing those ideas with you. So that's what I want to say. And happy holidays to you all. What is your closing insight around this time of year? My closing insight is take it easy on yourself. Especially this year. Things are very chaotic, and there's a very strong negative momentum of energy going around, and it is acting to me like a mind virus. It's really attacking people's psyche. You know, I feel like that's part where remote attack came from, is this just buildup of really aggressive and angry energy. So as opposed to just, you know, this all or nothing mentality where we're like, I'm not doing anything for the holidays, and then everybody's depressed and now angry about that, or I'm going all out. Can you just find a happy medium? You know, maybe you skip Christmas cards and some of the things that you normally do that overextend you, pare those down. Maybe make a list for yourself. What is the most important thing and the least important thing? Take some things off the list this year. It's too much. You know, maybe you only decorate a little bit, and it's just too much to think of 3 days of decorating. Some of you do the most beautiful things in the exterior and interior. You know, just try in every area to scale back a little bit and maybe add some new things that are stimulating you in a way, like the Elf on a Shelf. If you're going to do this tradition, that you're actually going to learn something from, and it's going to feel good as opposed to just another task. You know, so that's, I think, my biggest insight right now, and why I wanted to have these conversations with you about the holidays, because it's overload for a lot of people, especially in the United States. We are in overload right now, and we are a very commercialized country, and all of this is just kind of being crammed at us at a time when a lot of us are really strapped financially. We're stressed out about the state of things, where are things headed, and we just need to give ourselves a little break. And it's okay to do that. You know, it's okay to take this year to yourself. Maybe you don't do as many gatherings. It's not about being angry about it either. It's a gift you're giving yourself, is to just scale it back. You know, maybe you're not doing the same exact traditions and you're mixing it up, like, you know, the Blackfords went to Texas, and just doing things a little bit differently so that you can feel good. That's what's important, though. If you switch it up and it starts feeling bad, you're headed in the wrong direction. Just feel good about whatever you're doing and embrace it. And I think that should really kind of float you through this season, and just take it easy on yourself is where I want to end things. Thank you so much, Sola. This concludes tonight's episode with an invitation to parents to join the Elf on a Shelf Craft a Christmas Mystery Challenge, where you can create something memorable for your kid while engaging the artist within. You can find information about this on Facebook and Instagram. Please find those in the description box beneath this video.